So welcome to our first of our speaking series for KTI English Preparation Center. My name is Tammy. I'm an instructor with the center in Edmonton, Alberta here. This is the first of our speaking series for our live English lessons. It's just a beginner basic one to get us started, and then each week we'll add new content. All right, so our first topic, practice makes progress. You've heard this title before, this comment before. You may have heard practice makes perfect. Well, we're going to go with the theme practice makes progress. We get better when we practice, right? We have been told by all of our students that learning English can be daunting, an overwhelming task. There's so much to learn. Yes, we understand, we empathize. It is something that is very difficult. I'm a native speaker of English. I only know English. So I don't have the personal experience trying to learn a new language. I have the utmost respect for you who are learning English as your second or your third or who knows, fourth language. It's not simple. I do understand that, but we're going to keep going. We can get this done with the right supports, with practice and encouragement. You can do this. Attitude, mindset is a big portion of it. Okay? So let's keep a positive attitude. We'll work on this together. So when we first look at learning our first language, kids, they are completely immersed, which means completely surrounded by speakers of that language, right? Especially now that we're all home and working from home, both mom and dad are there and they're speaking in their native language, and kids, that's all they hear, right? So they start slowly. They speak a few words here and there. They learn by doing. Just like adults, as we learn new things, we start out slowly. So driving for the first time. You're not going to get in your car and drive on the highway, the freeway. You're going to get in your car or have somebody take you to the parking lot and practice driving around there. We start with little steps, right? For learning a language, it's not the same for adults. You can't just be immersed in it and do little bits at a time. It's frustrating. And quite frankly, you're busy, right? You have stuff to do. So what do we do then? Well, this is where I'm just moving my screen around so I can see things. I think we got it going here. Okay. So for what do we do as adults? Well, let's look. I've got an infographic up here, so a picture I got off of Wikimedia Commons. I've got it linked in the slideshow, but it shows kind of a pyramid. It's called the learning triangle or the learning pyramid. And it shows us educators and scientists have figured out over the years that what we read, we basically learn 10% of it, or we remember it, right? What we hear, if you're a auditory learner, you learn a little bit more of what you hear. Some people then we learn a little bit more of what we see. So like videos like this, for example, or watching TV, we learn a little bit more of what we see. You'll notice on this pyramid that the numbers of what we learn get better and better and bigger as we go toward the bottom. 90% of what people remember, of what they learn, is from doing the real thing, which means practicing, which means actually speaking. When we're talking about speaking English, we are talking about actually speaking, not just listening, right? So hence the title of this little mini lesson, practice makes progress. It's important to practice and practice and practice some more. So let's just start out easy. For you watching, you might already be doing all of these things. You just need a little reminder to keep doing them. Or maybe there's something new that you had not actually considered before. So let's just start out easy, right? Baby steps. So listen to English language speakers everywhere you can. And you can say, oh, that's easy. I live in Canada. Yes. But if you are, like we are in good old COVID times right now, we're kind of stuck at home. We're not going out as much. We don't get to go for coffee with our friends. And even that, sometimes our friends are our native speakers too. So of our mother tongue. So we're not actually practicing English. We're just speaking in our mother tongue to our friends, right? So let's take a couple of steps here and see how we can listen to English language everywhere. So obvious, TV, videos. You're watching this little video right now, right? You go on Facebook, you go on YouTube, you find some good videos, you listen, you watch. TV is a really good one. Movies. They're good for you to listen to the spoken language because they do give you the visual clues or cues too, right? Remember that pyramid? It says things you read, things you hear, things you see. You learn more of them as you see them. So it is important for sure. And just like a small child learning their first language, we too as adults must start out small. We have to immerse ourselves, surround ourselves with spoken English as much as possible. It's not going to be all the time unless you are able to go out of the home and work. You're right, that will help for sure. But this little sticky here says, but unless you start to practice speaking the language too, not much can happen. We need to do, right? The bottom of that pyramid said we need to do the real thing. So here, if you have this opportunity, take advantage of it. So practice at home just a little bit. Make it a little bit more and more. So if you have school-age children, enlist your children's help. Okay? You are speaking your first language at home. Yes, that's the most important. Many of my students, actually all of my students, they have the rule that at home they speak their native language because the kids have to learn it, especially if the kids were born in Canada and are going to school in Canada. They're not going to find that their native tongue anywhere except in your home. So yes, it is crucial. It's really important. But you need to take a little bit of that time for yourself. And I'll explain why. My students have told me why. So if your students are in a school, or if your children are school-age kids and they're in school, totally immersed in the English language, learning, speaking English, they might be considered native speakers of English, right? They're going to be able to help you a little bit. At home is where it's safe. Nobody's going to hear you. They can tell you if you're making a few mistakes and you can learn from them, right? I know some of my students have said, they've said that their kids have said, Mom, Dad, don't speak English because it doesn't sound right. You're doing it wrong. One of my students' sons said, Mom, you're butchering the English language. I mean, just cutting it up. You're not doing it right. So they don't want them to speak in public or when they come and pick them up from school. They don't want them to speak English to them. Well, it is a little embarrassing for them, but at home it's safe. So get your kids buy-in. Tell them that, you know what? I need your help. Mommy, Daddy needs to do this too, right? So maybe just schedule some time, whatever works for you best. Maybe an hour a week. Start out small, just a little bit, okay? So let's say, for example, you're all at home on Saturday morning. You cook breakfast together and you eat as a family. Why not take that little bit of time to speak in English, kids speaking to you, you speaking back to them in English? That's the buy-in. This is the time Mommy and Daddy need to learn it too. Okay, so that's maybe, if that'll work for you. Try it and see. Now, you can say, yeah, I'm doing this at home. Or I don't have school-age children. My children are young, or I don't even have children yet. So I can't do this at home. You might have a friend, a colleague, an acquaintance from work that you talk with on a regular basis. Keep doing that. But what else do you do? I'm doing all these things. I don't seem to be getting any better. Okay? Well, here's the obvious thing coming from a teacher of an English preparation center. I'm going to tell you, yes, take a speaking class. Here's why. Okay? I'm going to tell you that we as instructors will give you lots of practice. When we have you for that 2-hour block, it's all in English because guess what? That's all I speak if I'm your instructor. But we're going to give you the opportunity to practice. We ask questions, different topics. We teach vocabulary, new phrases, new idioms, new ways of saying things. All that new stuff, we give you practice and opportunity to use. Instructors can help you by correcting your mistakes. Time and time again, my students have told me that nobody corrects them. So when they're out in public or even at work, their colleagues don't often correct them. And a number of reasons. Personally, myself, before I became an ESL teacher, if I heard a non-English speaker trying to say something and I basically understood what they were saying, if I got the gist of it, then I didn't tell them they said something wrong. I didn't want to be rude. That wasn't my job, right? I just answered and we moved on from there. But my students have told me, if I'm not told I'm doing it wrong, I don't know, right? So instructors are there. That's our job. Our job is to correct your mistakes. Now, not all of them at the same time. We've also had students tell us, it's frustrating when you said you do this wrong and this wrong and this wrong and this. Yes. Instructors were trained to pick out certain things at a time. So grammar mistakes, for example, if you use past tense incorrectly, or you pronounce something a little bit differently and it's hard to understand, then instructors will help you out with correcting those mistakes. We'll work on a few at a time, right? We also do point out the things you're doing really well as too, right? Oh, I just disappeared. Hold on. I gotta go back. Next slide, or next thing. Here's what instructors help us do too. We try our best to help you out with the English rules, the tricky English rules. Lots of the rules of speaking, writing in English, they make sense. They're good. They make sense. Lots of them are exceptions, or what I call rule breakers. So we'll have a rule, for example, when you're spelling things, we've got the rule I before E except after C. But sometimes there's ones that it's a C and you still don't put the I before the E, even though it's coming right after the C. There's a few exceptions, right? Instructors will help by pointing those out. So pronunciation, things like that, will help you with those. Where am I? So, if doing all of these things at home, practicing every chance you get, and maybe even having the opportunity to take a speaking class, we want to do 3 things. 1, improve our vocabulary. Okay? We want many, many more words to be able to just pop into our heads. We want access to different words that we can use. Again, that comes with practice. That comes with instruction. We want to improve our fluency. So fluency means kind of your rate of speech. How fast you talk, how long it takes you to figure out what to say. You want to get to sound like a natural speaker, a native speaker. So lots of my friends are thinking in their first language and translating into English. That decreases our fluency. It slows our speech down a bit. So with practice, then we improve our fluency. Pretty soon you're starting to think in the English words, respond to English questions in English first in your head. So that's where we want to go. We also want to boost our confidence. Mindset is half of the work. right? I've had my students start our speaking classes and say, I'm sorry, I don't know this very well, I'm sorry. Yes, but that's why you're with me, right? We are going to get better at this. I can help you. If you practice and you practice and you practice some more, you're going to get better, and you can say, I can do this. We learn by doing. So the more you speak and speak with the correct rules, then the better you do. Okay? All right, so quick little review of the steps. If you're doing all these, great. If you're not, maybe one of these will help. So obviously, the big one that I think all of my students have done in the past is try very, very much to listen to English everywhere they can. Our communities are arranged so that people of like mind and like culture stick together, which makes sense. But at that same time, if you are sticking together with all your friends who are speakers of your mother tongue, it's going to be very hard to practice your English. If you're working out in the community, out in the workforce, it's a lot easier. But for those of us mums, lots of my students are stay-at-home mums, they don't have the same opportunities to listen to English everywhere. So take some advantage, take some time for yourself to do that. If you have kids, get them to teach you. Some of my students have said they just don't, because the kids say, again, Mom, you're doing it wrong. Well, Mom, ask them to help, right? They can be your teacher. They love it when they're teachers. And then the last part, obviously, is take a speaking class if you can. Now, yes, speaking classes come with a financial burden, a little bit more of a burden. You're going to have to budget. There is a time commitment. But those speaking classes, again, I'm going back to my experience from my students. My students tell me that a speaking class, a scheduled time, is very useful for them because they know it's something they've got to do. They've registered, they've paid for it, they've got to do it. So they put it and keep it into their schedule. If it's just, I'm going to watch TV at this time, it's really easy to do something else. If it's something hard, it's really easy to do something else instead. Like around my place, if I've got something hard to do, the laundry gets done very easily, very quickly. So sometimes that speaking class might be just that extra practice you need. Scheduled, it's already paid for, I gotta do it. And then when you get in on the class, you get a whole bunch of practice. So there's that point too. Now, I know from practicing this that as soon as if I don't move my face, you can't see that. So again, mindset. I've said it before, you've heard it before. Mindset, stay positive. You can do this. It's not going to happen overnight. There's no way I could learn a new language in even a couple of years. It's not going to happen overnight. If you do these little steps, you're going to be working towards it. So stay positive, practice, you can do it. Give yourself some supports and you can do it. So, thank you for joining us. I see I've done 20 minutes already or more. That's a little over my time slot here, but thank you very much for joining us. If you have questions, please join us on our website. Our website address right there, www.ktienglish.com. Of course, you can contact us on this Facebook page. Ask us questions if you want. Inquire about our speaking classes. But also, if you can give us messages on topics for future lessons, that would be great. We are going to do a little series on speaking because I think I mentioned it already. Our students are telling us that they generally have more difficulties with writing and speaking. So that's going to be our focus first. Next week and the week after, each of our live lessons will be a different portion of speaking instruction and speaking practice. So we're going to be talking about, the determiners. When do I use a? When do I use the? Those things. What are determiners? Why do I use them? Why do we need them in English? Okay, so we'll be talking about that. I've got one on pronunciation mistakes, common ones that we see in our students, ways to practice, help with that. If you can think of a topic that you would like us to try and cover, please let us know. Send us a message, an email from our contacts on our website, and we'll try and get to it. I do want to just quickly go to my credits page, my thank you for the slide template, thank you for the pictures, thank you to Wikimedia for that little triangle diagram infographic about how we learn, how human brains learn, that kind of thing. Again, going back and whoops, still learning all these double screen things. Thank you very much for joining us. I will see you next week. Bye for now.